Today's video is going to go over the most up-to-date scientific literature on training, and I'm going to give you guys as well my personal take on how I've changed my training recently, how I've optimized my workouts with regards to, my frequency. So how many times a week do I train? How many sets per major muscle group per week do I do? How many sets per workout do I do? And how many sets per workout does the science suggest that you should do? And then I'll sort of contend with the science's arguments based on my own experience. What weight should you use? AKA what rep range should you use? Lower rep range versus higher rep range. What's more optimal for muscle growth? What's better for natural lifters? What's better for recovery? Things like rest between sets. Things like when should you take deloads? How should you take deloads? Things like that. I'm gonna go over in this video. So essentially, for those of you who don't know, the point of going to the gym and the point of lifting weights is to produce what is called mechanical tension. And mechanical tension is the force produced in your by your muscle fibers, by your muscles when there's active tension taking place. So when you curl, for example, a weight up, and when you lower the weight, when there's passive tension. So muscles are mechanical. They stretch and they contract. And depending on how much force is produced in that stretching and contracting motion, or how much tension is produced, dictates how well you've stimulated the muscle growth and how well you'll grow. And the point of muscle building, what we're trying to achieve, is progressive tension overload, progressively increasing mechanical tension over time, which is done by using heavier weights over time, but also by controlling those weights, okay? Because yes, time under tension is important, but if you're not using heavy weights, then it really doesn't matter. So what you want is slow and controlled movements using as heavy weight as possible, a very challenging weight. That's what's going to maximize mechanical tension, and by extension is what's also going to create muscle damage, which is a byproduct of mechanical tension, which is another driver of hypertrophy and cellular fatigue, which is a chemical reaction which takes place when you take a set to muscular failure. So when you take your sets to failure, you're not only producing mechanical tension by using heavy weight, slow and controlled, doing hard reps, which causes muscle damage, another driver of hypertrophy. And to get that last driver of hypertrophy, you want to be taking your sets to failure to generate or to produce that cellular fatigue, okay? First and foremost, that is what we're trying to achieve when we lift weights, when we lift heavy, okay? So the first point I want to talk about is the first point that I alluded to in that list, which is frequency. How many times a week should you work out? What does the science say? What do I say? And I happen to agree with what the scientific literature says on this. And what it does say is 3 to 5 workouts, in particular 3 to 5 low volume, high intensity workouts per week is absolutely by far well established to be optimal for natural lifters to produce muscle growth. It allows you to recover adequately because you have 2 rest days to recover, which means you're avoiding overreaching and overtraining in your workouts, which long term can obviously hinder muscle growth. I remember I used to do six day a week training splits, where I get sore a lot, fatigued, weak. I wouldn't be able to progressively overload as well. I'd have trouble sleeping sometimes. I'd not really have an appetite. I'd lose weight, but in a bad way when I'm trying to bulk. I was more irritable, more anxious, more restless. I had an abnormal heart rate as well, something else. And these are all signs of overtraining. Can't focus, depressed. I'm telling you, when I used to train high frequency 6 days a week, I'm telling you, I'd have 2 days a week where I would sit and just scroll. I wouldn't have any ability to focus. I'd just mindlessly procrastinate. I'd eat junk food. I'd order cookies. I went like pretty much brain dead because of the overtraining. So there's what it does for your physique, and there's also what it does for your mental. And bar none, 3 to 5 days a week is where I've seen the most results and felt the best. So first point I want to make is train 3 to 5 days per week for adequate rest and recovery, and therefore for maximizing muscle growth. Okay. The next point I want to talk about is what the literature suggests in terms of how many hard sets per week should you do. And I happen to also pretty much my philosophy aligns with the literature in that the literature suggests 9 to 12 hard sets per week. But what I don't train personally like this. The science does say, and this is well established to be true, that training not necessarily to failure, but close to failure, yields the same results as training till failure. Now, there have been a bunch of studies which has proven this to be true, okay, first and foremost. Training 1 rep in reserve to 3 reps in reserve is going to produce the same amount of muscle growth as training to 0 reps in reserve. Now, where I differ from the literature is I like to train very, very hard, like extremely hard in my workouts, 0 reps in reserve, always, plus partials. So what does this mean? Instead of doing 9 to 12 sets per workout, hard sets per workout, which is what the literature suggests and which is what is optimal, I would do 6 to 10 working sets per workout. But the difference is I have to compensate by doing less volume because my intensity is that much higher. So if you're like me and you literally cannot sleep at night unless you give it your entire effort in the gym, you die on your leg days, you go to all out failure on every set. If you want to train like that, then you may have to train at least on the lower end of that spectrum. So at least 9 sets to failure per workout. You definitely can't do 12 sets to failure per workout. You may be able to. I shouldn't actually say that. There are people who recover better, they accumulate fatigue at a slower rate. I tend to fatigue very quick. I only need very low volume to grow. So that's a blessing and a curse, right? I can spend less time in the gym, but obviously I don't like doing that. I like spending time in the gym, but I'd have to do less sets. But if I just train hard, for example, my leg days, I'll do 6 sets normally. Literally 6 sets till absolute failure, like I'm dead after 6 sets. And I grow insane amounts from that. You may have the capacity to do 10 sets maybe to failure. I doubt it though. But regardless, if that's you, if you want to train psychotically hard, then you might have to compensate by lowering your volume to 6 to 10 sets to failure per workout. Or if you want to just train not to failure, but close to failure, then, 9 to 12 hard sets, 1 to 3 reps in reserve, meaning that, you finish a rep, what you think is your last rep, but you're like, oh, I technically could have 1 more rep in the tank with good form. That's when you stop. Or, oh, I technically could do 3 more sets, 3 more quality reps, and you stop there. That's what 1 rep in reserve and 3 reps in reserve mean, respectively. But again, it depends on how quickly you fatigue. If you want to train extremely hard, you may have to lower your volume. If you want to train hard, but not, to absolute failure, then 9 to 12 hard sets close to failure per workout is what the literature suggests to be optimal, and I can attest that is optimal. If you're not training to all-out failure on every set. Even some people may be able to do 9 sets, even 12 sets maybe to failure, okay? I'm not saying that that's not possible. I'm just saying I think the majority of people, if you want to train extremely, extremely hard on each set, I think 12 sets till absolute failure plus partials is a lot. But again, everyone's different, so you try out what you want. But let me just finish by saying that try 9 sets to failure at the start, and if you feel like you can do 10 and still have energy throughout the day, do 10. But I wouldn't push it, because here's where people get mixed up. You're not supposed to finish your workout like being absolutely destroyed. You're supposed to finish your workout coming off a high almost from the workout. You have to train extremely hard. You have to feel that you've trained extremely hard, but you shouldn't feel like, oh my god, I can't even do anything for the rest of the day. Okay? That's where people will get training hard mixed up. That's what happens when you overreach in your workout. So for example, one time when I was doing a shoulder and arm workout, I was like, you know what? Normally I do 10 sets till failure. And I reached my 10 set till failure, doing like tricep push-downs. I was like, oh, let me try to do 2 more. But at that point, I was like, okay, Frankie, you're done. 10 sets, you're done. And I was like, oh, let me push it a bit more. And I did 2 more sets till failure. And then the next day, I, again, experienced one of those days where I couldn't focus, no willpower, junk food, procrastinated, all because I overtrained the previous day. So just bear all those comments in mind. I know I'm rambling a bit, but I hope I've made that clear. 9 to 12 hard sets per week, per workout, is optimal for the majority of people. And now, on a similar note, I want to talk about how many sets to failure or how many hard sets per major muscle group per week should you aim for. And again, the literature suggests that you should do 9 to 12 hard sets per muscle group per week, okay? And let me just, on that note, talk about a common misconception, which is that frequency matters for muscle growth, okay? Frequency doesn't mean jack, okay? Especially compared to dialing in your volume and dialing in your intensity, okay? So the time spent contracting your muscles, reps, hard sets, weights times reps, which is volume, right? And intensity, so the degree of tension your muscles produce per rep, is far more important than how many times a week do you train your chest or how many times a week do you train your legs. I hate that. It's not even backed by literature. It's not even backed by the science. I don't know why people think still that it's optimal to train a muscle group twice per week. That is complete BS. I'm sorry. I don't know why people keep talking about that. Your frequency should just be whatever gels with your workout schedule, okay? For example, I know, me personally, I train 4 or 5 times a week. That means I train a muscle group once a week, okay? And I still see insane results. So this idea that you should train a muscle group twice per week is, to be honest, I think it's bad advice, because for natural lifters, you need to optimize for recovery and rest. And if you're going to train a muscle group twice per week, that leaves no time for rest and recovery. So I think that's absolute BS. Whatever your fitness goals are, whatever your workout schedule, workout intensity, workout volume is, that's how you should take into account, okay, how many days a week should I train, okay? If you are doing, like me, you're doing 6 to 10 sets till absolute failure per plus partials per week, per workout, then, 3 to 5 workouts a week. I personally do 4 to 5. I think you're going to see better results doing 5, better than 4, better than 3. But if you're doing, you're not training that to failure, you're doing less volume or whatever, then yeah, maybe you could squeeze in twice a week chest, for example. You could do like push, back hamstrings, chest, delts, arms, legs, pull. So like you're training your back and your chest twice in a week. I personally think, from what I've seen with regards to your chest especially, you're going to respond better to low volume, higher intensity. But the literature does say, so I'm obviously, if you're going to take advice from anyone, it should be the science. But this, again, it's all based on an individual basis and how hard you train. But let's just put it this way, okay? 9 to 12 hard sets per muscle group per week, you're going to see fantastic results. It doesn't matter what, if you're doing 9, 12. I'm just being a bit picky when I say that, I would do less than 9 sets. For example, my chest would probably get 6 sets to failure per week, and my chest has exploded since doing that. So even though that's what the science says, the science is coming at it from a perspective that you should train 1 to 3 reps in reserve. But I train with 0 reps in reserve. That's why I do less volume, because I do higher intensity. So just always bear that in mind, all right? But that's the easiest way to build 20 to 30 pounds of muscle, okay? Just 9 to 12 hard sets per muscle group per week. Or, 6 extremely to failure sets per week is also, based on my experience, you're going to see great results. But for the case of this video, just 9 to 12 sets per muscle group per week. If you can work out a way to fit that in, that's great. If it's only 9, that's perfectly fine. And even if it's a bit less, as I said, that's perfectly fine, as long as you're training very, very hard, okay? Anything more than that, obviously, will lead to overreaching and overtraining, which will lead to all the negative outcomes that I've already discussed. Now, the next point I want to talk about is, what rep range should I use? In particular, what should my working set be? What should my top set be in terms of how heavy should I lift? And so I'll just tell you how I train. For most of my sets, I'll fail within the 4 to 6 range, and some I'll fail within the 6 to 8 range. You might think this is extremely low. I happen to believe that this lower rep range is by far much better for natural muscle growth, because it allows for adequate rest and recovery whilst also stimulating the muscle in the same way as a set that's taken to failure and failing within the 20 to 30 rep range. You accumulate less fatigue per workout, therefore you accumulate less fatigue per week. Therefore, you can recover better from the same stimulus. So I just think it makes so much more sense, and I've seen better results from training in the heavy rep range. There are data which shows that it's better at producing mechanical tension the heavier you lift. And just so you guys know what I mean when I say failure. Failure is a point at which you can no longer lift the weight despite using your maximum effort, okay? Maintaining good form. But obviously, feel free to do some partials, I do. Just to sort of hammer in the point I just made, technically, a set taken till, failing on your 4th rep builds the same amount of muscle as a set which you take to failure failing on your 20th rep, okay? So what sounds better? 2 sets of Smith squats, right? Or any kind of squats where you're done after 5 reps, or you're using a lighter weight and you have to do 15 hard reps with a lighter weight, which sounds less painful. I think the lower rep range, and which produces this more muscle growth. Well, they would both produce the same, but I'm banking on the lower rep range to actually build more muscle growth, just based on what I've experienced and based of some studies which have shown that lower rep range does tend to produce mechanical tension better. But higher rep sets, regardless, you will accumulate more fatigue, right? And because you accumulate more fatigue, you have to rest longer between sets. You have to stay longer in the gym. Maybe you have to stay there for an hour and a half or an hour and 15, whereas I finish, 45 to an hour and I'm out of there. So why would you do a set of 15 to 20 when you can do a set of 5 to 8? You know what I mean? Also, I understand that you might be like, oh, Frankie, like you're telling me you want me to do a set of lateral raises and for 5 reps? No, right? That's why I include both rep ranges, 4 to 6 and 6 to 8, because your tricep push downs, your bicep curls, your lat raises, you're going to want to fail you're going to want to use a weight in which you fail between the 6 to 8 rep range, whereas your hack squats or your rows, you're going to fail within the 4 to 6 rep range. Okay? That's my personal advice, but again, the literature suggests that your working sets, you should use 75% to 85% of your 1 rep max, which, when it comes down to it, is that 4 to 8 rep range. Next, I want to talk about when I say reps in reserve, what exactly do I mean? So the truth is that 1 rep in reserve is what the science says you should do, 1 to 3 reps in reserve, right? And 1 rep in reserve is pretty close to failure. So the fact that it's telling you to do 9 to 12 sets, hard sets, they call it, 1 to 3 reps in reserve, is good advice at the end of the day, because one rep in reserve is quite close to failure, whereas 3 reps in reserve is less close to failure. And I would probably, if you really don't want to train to absolute failure, make sure it's like 1 to 2 reps in reserve, right? What 3 reps in reserve is called volitional fatigue. So you're choosing to stop your set before you achieve muscular failure. Now remember, what we talked about, drivers of hypertrophy. This is going to produce mechanical tension, muscle damage, 2 drivers of hypertrophy. But what it's not going to do is tick off that last box, which is cellular fatigue, okay? The chemical reaction which occurs or takes place when you take a set to muscular failure. So, given that, I think it makes more sense to train to 0 reps in reserve, but to just lower your volume a bit. I know I'm sounding a bit repetitive, but I just want to hammer in that point. My personal advice to you guys would be, if you want to do 9 sets per workout to failure to 0 reps in reserve, that could probably work. But I just think 12 sets to failure is a bit much, and I think 10 is the max you can go to 0 reps in reserve. If you want to do more volume, right? If you want to do 11, 12 sets per workout, then you can't train to failure on your sets. It has to be 1 to 3 reps in reserve. Okay? I think that's kind of clarified the point I want to make. Next, I want to talk about rest between sets. This is pretty simple. I just tell people, 2 to 4 minutes, right? That's the range in which your rest time should fall. Obviously, it differs, right? On your bigger squat movements, row movements, you'll need to rest like 5 minutes between sets, which allows you to be stronger on each set, right? You don't want to be resting too little, of course, because then you still need to catch your breath, slow down your heart rate. And if you don't slow down your heart rate, catch your breath, you'll be weaker on your next set. You won't, optimize for progressive tension overload, which is going to lead you to having a suboptimal workout because you weren't as strong on the sets that you needed to be, as much as you needed to be. But for bicep curls, tricep push downs, lateral raises, probably be like 3-minute rests or 2-minute rests even, depending on. And here's another point I might mention. Ever since doing cardio more, dude, my recovery between sets is way better. Before, when I'd finish a set of squats, I'd have to wait. I kid you not, guys. When I was doing no cardio, 8 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes. It was insane. But now it's my heart rate just goes back to normal heart rate much quicker. So it allows me to get my, recover better between sets. So do your cardio. But anyways, don't go on your phone between sets. Yeah, you got to have locked-in syndrome, okay? Your heart should stop beating as, pounding, right? It should stop pounding before you go into your set again. Just slow down your breath. And once you're ready to go in, just go in is basically what it comes down to. And then lastly, before I talk on about some pertinent points with regards to these points that I've just made, deloads. Now, my personal advice is to take a deload every 8 weeks for natural lifters. Deloads fall under many descriptions. One is just lower your volume. One is just lower your volume and intensity. So don't take every set till failure. Or take, if you're doing training to 1 rep in reserve, start training to 3 reps in reserve for a week. I would just say that I don't like the idea of going to the gym if you're not going to go all out. That's my personal advice. Again, bear in mind, it's personal advice. The literature does suggest that taking a week off completely off the gym is not necessary to boost recovery, boost motivation, which is what a deload is meant for. But that's what I would do because I train so hard. So again, it comes down to how hard are you training. If you're only training 1 to 3 reps in reserve, then you don't need to take a week off the gym every 8 weeks. You can just lower your volume, lower your intensity. But if you are training insanely hard, then yeah, I would say take a week off the gym every 8 weeks. This will allow you to, avoid burnout, come back with really high levels of motivation, get stronger after your deload. You'll come back and you'll be very, very strong. You'll grow during your deload, hopefully, if you've been training properly. Because, before training, you're at a baseline level, right? And then you train and you recover. You train and you recover. You train and you recover. And then there's an also sort of, if you can imagine a graph, which is, base level improvement and then, a decline in improvement. And time is the x-axis. So over time, you're training and recovering, training and recovering, and this is going to lead to a slow increase in adaptation, muscle growth, right? Muscle growth, muscle growth. Then it's less and muscle growth, less strength gains as you go on, but it's still muscle growth. And then it reaches baseline again. And that's normally the 8 to 10 week point, right? And if you continue to train hard beyond that, that can lead to diminishing returns, right? That can lead to a decline, lead to muscle loss, lead to unnecessary fat gain, weight loss maybe in the bad form where you're losing muscle. So I think deloads are important, and I do think you should take, if you train very hard, a week off the gym after 8 weeks. And if you don't train to failure but close to failure, just lower your volume, lower your intensity for a week, and then go back to your normal program. So now let me talk a bit about how to achieve progressive overload. A lot of you will know how to do this. I understand that. But no matter what machine you use, how often you train, how heavy you train, if you don't achieve progressive tension overload, then you won't grow, right? And the method I use is called double progression. So say 1 week you're doing a machine chest press, and you, on your first set, you get 135 pounds for 4 reps, and you fail at 4 reps. Next set, you have to stay at 135 pounds because you haven't reached that top rep set of 6. Remember that rep range I gave you? So you do it again, 135 pounds, and you get 4 reps again. So that means you have to use 135 pounds again on your third set, final set, and you get 5 reps, okay? That's your week 1 set of chest press done. 3 hard sets, you get 4, 4, and 5 with 135 pounds. Next week, you didn't achieve that top rep set, so you have to go back and do 135. And so your first set, in your second week, you hit 6 reps with 135. Boom, first set. So what do you do then? I say, this is how I do it. As soon as you hit your top rep set, as soon as you hit 6 reps on your incline bench press, on your incline dumbbell press, incline Smith press, whatever big chest pressing movement you do, as soon as you hit that top rep set with whatever weight you're using, that next set should be 5 or even 10 pounds increase. So that next set, what I would do if I hit 6 reps with 135 pounds, my next set, I've already achieved my top rep set. So my next set would be 145 pounds, and hopefully I'd get 4 reps. If I get 4 reps with that, great. Next set, I'll just do 145 again, and hopefully I get 4 or 5 reps. And then obviously I haven't hit my top rep set of 6 reps. So then the next week I'll do go into my chest press with 145 pounds because I still haven't hit that top rep set. First set I'll get 4 reps. My second set I'll get 5 reps. And third set, boom, I hit 6 reps. So what do? Next week I'll go in and I'll try hit 155 pounds. And if I get 4 reps, okay, I'm going to do 155 pounds for my next set, etc., etc. So I hope that makes sense. So, I'll typically do like 2 working sets per movement. So once I hit the top rep of 6, I'll increase the weight by 5 to 10 pounds. Now, the newer you are to the gym, you can increase it by 10 pounds. But if you're an advanced lifter, that's probably going to be closer to 5 or 2.5 pounds. But it's still progress. You're still progressing. And if next week I hit 4 reps with a heavier load that I'm trying, 10 pounds heavier, then I'll keep using it until I hit the 6 reps using that weight before I increase the weight, okay? That's the double progression method that I use. Quickly, I also want to talk about how to use proper range of motion. Range of motion is how much you flex and extend your joints, okay, when you do a movement. When you curl a dumbbell, for example, flexion occurs, and when you raise it and contract it, and when you slowly release it, extension occurs when you lower it, okay? When you bench, a full range of motion is when the bar touches your chest and when you're fully extending your elbow. Using a full range of motion is obviously much more effective than partial reps at producing muscle growth because you are essentially maximizing the mechanical tension that occurs, because if tension is occurring throughout the whole movement, the more force produced, i.e. the more time under tension that occurs with a heavy load, which is challenging, means the more muscle growth. And the only way to maximize time under tension with a heavy load, a challenging weight, and therefore maximize mechanical tension, is to take it through that full range of motion, because that's what's going to take the longest amount of time. Also, it reduces risk of injury if you're just half repping. If you don't get full depth on your squats, the stress isn't going to be equally distributed onto your knees, onto your lower back, onto your hip flexors, your glutes, your quads. If you just half rep the squat, it's going to be all on your lower back, and that's going to be dangerous. So make sure you're getting a full range of motion for all your sets. A deep stretch at the bottom, a big squeeze at the top, maximum elbow flexion on your push downs, on your presses, maximum depth on your squats, maximum stretches on your pull-ups or your pull-downs, full stretch, things like that. That's what's going to maximize muscle growth. And, let me also on that note then talk about form. What do I mean when I say proper form, okay? Exercise form matters as much, if not more, than a full range of motion, okay? When doing an incline dumbbell press, you want the dumbbells to move up and down in a straight path, okay? Obviously, it's going to take time to master your technique. When you're curling, you don't want to be swinging. You want to be motionless. You just want your arms to be moving up and down. When you're doing a pull-ups, you don't want to swing your knees up and, swing your torso up like, those CrossFitters do, or like David Goggins, how he cheats his pull-ups. Don't do that, because that's not going to stimulate the muscle as effectively. Keep your legs still and smoothly pull yourself up and lower yourself down, okay? But, don't let this idea of making sure that your form is excellent, don't let that come at the cost of not using as challenging of a weight as you're capable of. Make sure you're still lifting heavy, but you're just controlling the heavy weight. 4-second eccentrics, 2-second stretches, 2-second contractions is what I like to do. Now, you don't have to go 4-second eccentrics. You can just do 2 seconds. You don't have to pause on the stretch. You don't have to pause on the contraction. But just make sure if you're controlling it. You just be honest with yourself. If you're in control of the weight or if the weight is in control of you, okay? Again, on the similar note, rep tempo. I just said how I like to do 4-second eccentrics, especially on my squats, especially on my chest presses. But again, the literature suggests that you don't need to do that slow and eccentric. You don't need to pause in the stretch or the contraction. Although some studies show that, it is important to at least pause in the stretch of your movements and, hold that stretch. So you can either follow, the literature is mixed on this. You can either do like a 1 second eccentric and a 1 second concentric. So you're still controlling it, but it's not as slow and controlled. Or you can do it more controlled. You can pause in that stretch when you're doing a chest press and you can feel your pecs being ripped apart. Or you can pause, on your seated leg curl and your hamstrings are just stretching and like you feel that painful stretch. I like to do the latter rather than, slightly faster reps. So I see some huge people who are just, they're doing, that 1-0-1, that 1 second concentric, briefly pause, 1 second eccentric, briefly pause. I like to do it slower. It feels, it gives me more peace of mind, that I'm doing the movement very slow. It's really challenging each rep, but that doesn't mean it's more hypertrophic. So, at the end of the day, if you're controlling the weight or not, and if the weight is controlling you. So, I would personally, if I had to give my own input, I would say more literature is suggesting that especially resistance, which occurs in the lengthened position, is more hypertrophic. So that would lead me to believe that if you're emphasizing that stretch, and that feeling what I'm talking about, that stretch in each muscle, whether that's with a pause, whether that's with lengthened partials once you fail, or whether that's stretch mediated hypertrophy, holding that stretch after you hit failure. Something I used to do when I did my tricep extensions is when I hit failure, I'd stay in that stretched position and I would just like feel my triceps getting ripped apart. That would be my personal advice. But again, tempo is not that clear on what's optimal. I mean, here's what's optimal. You just have to control the weight. Simple as that, okay? Again, let me talk about briefly how to avoid injury, okay? The most common way people get injured isn't actually in the gym or after a workout or after a set. It's overreaching and overtraining in the workout, which leads to them failing to recover, which leads to then injury, okay? So let's say on your push day, your elbows feel stiff, but you brush it off, and then a few weeks later, you're doing your tricep extensions, and it's actually hurting now in your set, but you do it anyways, you brush it off because like you just want to fight through the pain. And then a few weeks later, now your elbow is permanently hurting. Okay, this is what's known as a repetitive stress injury, and the only way to avoid this, whenever you feel your knees, your shoulders, your lower back, your elbows, you feel it's stiff, it feels funny, it feels tight, don't train whatever is going to antagonize that tendon in any way, whether it's your knees or your elbow. Don't do any movements which is going to antagonize it for a week. Let it recover, because this is already a sign that you are building up a stress injury when you feel your elbows feel funny, or your shoulder feels tight, or your knees feel weird, okay? Just take a week off, don't antagonize it in any way, and then come back the next time, and you should be good to go, okay? Don't do, obviously, any 1 rep maxes or 2 rep maxes or any shit like that. That's just going to make it worse. And, on a similar note, if the exercise feels bad, right, you don't do it. If you feel a sharp pain when doing an exercise, oh my God, what was that? Stop doing the exercise. Or take 2 minutes, go back into it, and if you get the same pain, move on. Do another exercise, okay? For example, if you're doing bilateral alternating dumbbell curls, and one side hurts and one side doesn't, that's a pretty good sign that you have something wrong and that you should probably move on and do a different exercise, because there's no reason why one side should hurt and the other shouldn't. So again, rest a couple minutes, go back into it, and if it still hurts, just move on, okay? It's not worth it. And again, last point I want to make is, as you become more advanced on your lifting, bodybuilding, fitness, self-improvement journey, whatever, the progress which you see is going to taper off. You're not going to gain, in those first 6-8 months, you're going to gain like 20 pounds of muscle. That's not going to continue, okay? You're not going to continue to get stronger, to look better at such a more rapid rate, to lose fat at such a rapid rate, to feel, as good as you felt when you first started out. That increase in progress is going to taper off, but that doesn't matter, because progress is progress is progress. Doesn't matter if you put 5 pounds on the bar, 10 pounds on the bar, 2.5 pounds on the bar. What matters is that you're putting pounds on the bar, right? You are progressing. You're getting ever so close to your dream physique, to your goal that you've always wanted to achieve. And, you know, you should feel at peace with the fact that, yes, I'm not progressing as fast as I used to, but I'm still progressing. And as long as you're still progressing, you're still winning. You're still taking the W. You're still doing whatever you can. As long as you're progressing, you should be happy with yourself about the workout that just took place, about the day you just had, about the trajectory you're on. So just be grateful for the incremental steps to greatness, all right? Don't feel down about not being able to, I just hit that weight last week. Why am I hitting the same weight, you know? I know how you feel. I know, I've been there. But just, you can do it. Just keep trying to get stronger. Do whatever you can. Don't be afraid. Get angry at the start of your set saying, I'm getting 5 reps on this set. I don't care. And you're going to get 5 reps if you just, it's all in the mind, okay? So just move heavy loads through full ranges of motion with proper technique. Move as much weight as you can with proper control, and you are going to build 20 to 30 pounds of muscle. You're going to build your dream physique. It's that simple, all right? That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.